So the truth is, not every Virgin Voyages cruise goes to plan. And having recently just stepped off a Resilient Lady sailing in the Caribbean back in January, I want to share our experience about missing a port and making a massive mistake that made a huge difference to our first night. So although we had a really fantastic time, today I'm going to talk you through our vacation, the mistakes that we made and what we might do differently next time. And along the way, I'm going to give you some insider tips on how to make your Virgin Voyages go without a hitch. If we haven't met before, I'm David from VV Insider, which is a website all about Virgin Voyages. So whether you're planning your first Virgin voyage or you've been on a few times and you just really like to know what's going on, over on vvinsider.com, we tell everyone what to expect and all the changes that are coming up across the entire fleet of ships and the brand at large. With that being said, we do often travel on Virgin Voyages to gather content and information for our website, but every now and then we do book one just as a vacation, as a holiday for ourselves. And this sailing back in January was exactly one of those. We booked it with a big group of friends and we were ready to just relax and enjoy our holiday. But like I say, on this instance, not everything went exactly to plan. So let's jump right in. Let's talk about what went wrong and how you can avoid the mistakes that we made. VV Insider is the #1 resource for the latest Virgin Voyages info, guides and news. From picking the perfect cabin to booking dining or simply just making the most of your voyage and saving money while you do it, vvinsider.com has helped thousands of sailors around the world sail smarter. Support our work by hitting subscribe and stick around to hear how you can get exclusive perks by booking directly with us. So this trip that we had planned all started in the middle of January. We decided to book this trip, which was a trip to Florida and then our Resilient Lady Caribbean cruise, simply to get away from some of the bad weather we have in England this time of year. But of course, this does mean traveling quite far. So we traveled from Newcastle in England all the way to Miami, which involved a connection in Heathrow. So it was a fairly long travel day. We'd also planned to spend some time in Orlando the week before the cruise. So we had to drive from Miami to Orlando, which added another 4 hours of driving. That of course does make for a very long travel day, but it was all worth it. We had a fantastic week in Orlando. We went to the Universal parks, including Epic Universe. It was really good fun and a really good way to start our vacation. But it did mean by the time the cruise came around on Embarkation Day, we were still in Orlando and had to make our way down to Miami. By the time we got down to Miami, dropped the hire car off and then took the 20-minute taxi ride from the airport to the port, we actually passed our port arrival time. This was actually the first time in a long time that we arrived after our port arrival time, but actually this turned into a very happy mistake. By the time we ended up at the port, we didn't have to wait around at all and just walk straight onto the ship basically. We weren't waiting around for anything. So although unlikely, that's our first insider tip for this video, which is to arrive at or after your port arrival time. There's no point in arriving early. You'll just be sitting around waiting to get on the ship. Enjoy your time in the city or the port that you're at. It sounds so straightforward, but we find a lot of people ask, should I arrive early for my port arrival time? My advice is no, you shouldn't arrive any earlier than it says, and then your experience when you get to the port will be a lot happier. So as I mentioned, we're traveling with a big group of friends. By the time we got on board, we found all of our friends sitting at Sip Lounge, and this was actually a really nice way to kick off our voyage. It was a really nice place for us to all meet each other, share a few drinks, and Sip Lounge actually acted as our central hub as many of our friends went off to do their muster drill. Our big group of friends in the Sip Lounge could sit and hold the table, while a few others went off, did their muster drills and came back. The thing that we always look forward to in our friend group is the Let's Set Sail party that happens on the pool deck. This happens around about 5:30. Check the app for your particular voyage for the real timing. So that gave us some time to head to the room and freshen up. Now I will say this was our first time in an insider cabin. Now we're no stranger to booking an insider cabin. We've booked the insider lock-it-in rate for a lot of our voyages simply to make the voyage fare cheaper. But generally, as the cabins get assigned, because you're in a lock-it-in cabin, you can sometimes accidentally snag an upgrade to a sea terrace, and that has always happened to us before. But this was the first time when we've actually booked an insider lock-it-in rate, we've ended up with an insider. And I will say for me, I do like darkness when I sleep, and it was perfect for that. Of course, there's no natural light in an insider cabin. There's no balcony, there's no window, but this suited me very well. I do tell myself I really love the hammocks on the sea terrace balconies, but I don't ever get enough time to use them because I'm always off doing other things on board. So maybe an insider cabin is just right for me. Leaving that aside, once I'd freshened up, put our wine in the fridge, and then headed back upstairs, it was time for the sail away party. I'm certainly not one to miss the sail away party. I think it's a really good way to start your vacation off. Even if it doesn't seem like your type of thing, if you prefer a more chilled and laid back vibe, still go along to the sail away party and see what all the fuss is about. There's some free bubbles in it for you as well, and you'll get to see the Happenings cast toast to the voyage ahead. It's all a very nice atmosphere. After the sail away party has fizzled out, now is a great time to head back to your cabin and see if your luggage have been delivered. In our case, the luggage had been delivered. It gave me a perfect time to unpack everything. One thing I always make sure of on the first day, because I really love the PJ party, which happens generally on the first night, is to make sure the PJs are handy and ready to go. After I'd unpacked, it was nearly time for dinner. We headed down to a bar for a few drinks before dinner and then head to Extra Virgin for our first meal of the voyage. I must say, on this particular sailing on Resilient Lady back in January, the food was absolutely amazing. I don't know what exactly was going on, but the food and beverage team must have really stepped it up because the food was extraordinary on our entire voyage. Now, this is where I made one of those big mistakes that I was talking about, and that's all down to enjoying the food a little bit too much on the first night. And it sent me completely to sleep. We already had a very early morning and we'd done a lot of travel. I drove a fairly long distance from Orlando to Miami. I'd been dancing away at the sail away party as well. And the cherry on top was all the pasta that I ate an Extra Virgin. And it made me very, very sleepy indeed. So I made the fatal mistake of saying, I'm going to go and have an hour's nap. Well, I slept through my alarm and woke up halfway through PJ Party. I checked the time on my phone and I was devastated because I love PJ Party, and many of the activations and fun things that happen at the PJ Party happen in the first 45 minutes to an hour, and I basically slept through that entire thing. But I wasn't going to miss it entirely. I shot up out of bed, stuck my PJs on and headed to the back of the ship to enjoy the last bit of the PJ Party. So there is a big tip for you on the very first night. Make sure that you pace yourself. This is very much a case of do as I say, not as I do, because I definitely didn't on that day. I could have very easily just slept through the entire PJ Party. I'm glad I didn't. I did have a lovely hour or so when I finally woke up. Now on to day 2, and luckily for us, this happens quite a lot in itineraries where the second day is a sea day. This is actually great because it means that you can recover from the night before. A lot of people do go very hard on the first day. Maybe they've been to PJ Party late, but it does mean you might wake up with a sore head in the morning. Well, a sea day on the second day means that you've got an opportunity to relax, catch up on some sleep and enjoy the ship. If it's your first Virgin voyage, this is a really good time to explore what the ship has to offer and take a really good look on the lineup to pick out some events that you might want to check out before the cruise ends. We had a lovely lie-in and a very late brunch in Razzle Dazzle. Razzle Dazzle is actually a really nice chill and casual place to go for brunch. If I can remember right, I think I had a pastry and a fruit salad, but there are some more substantial things available at brunch as well if you prefer. After brunch, we took the opportunity to have a little explore of any new things we hadn't seen the last time we were on Resilient Lady. We had an explore and found a new area that we hadn't seen before, which is the Den, which is the high roller casino area. This is a new extension to the casino. The vibes inside the Den are very nice indeed. We're not massive gamblers ourselves, so it's unlikely we'll be putting money down in this room, but it was just a nice place to hang out. There's some lovely furniture, and it's nice to just have a little wander around and see what it's all about. Sometimes just watching people gamble in the casino is a nice spectator sport, so maybe later on in the day it might be a bit busier and you might see people putting a lot of money down on the blackjack table, for example. This sea day for us was a nice opportunity to relax after a fairly active start to our vacation in Orlando and with a heavy day the day before. So we just relaxed and enjoyed some of the guest artists in On the Rocks. That night we had dinner in the wake, and like I say, the food again was absolutely lovely. I had the lamb chops with mint jelly. It was very, very nice indeed. And I'm not normally a dessert person, but we tried the crepe cake, which is a fairly tall stack of wafer thin crepes with cream in the middle. It was very, very nice indeed. I will say the texture is a little odd, but the taste is lovely, so give it a try. Then after that, on Resilient Lady, it was another themed night. And this time it was Klub Rubiks, which is a 1980s style party. We were lucky enough to be on board Resilient Lady during her very first sailing So we went to the very first Klub Rubiks there ever was, so there's always a very special place in our hearts. It's an opportunity to get dressed up in 1980s gear. I took it fairly easy. I have a white t-shirt with Whitney Houston on the front, and if somebody offers me a glow band or a sweatband or something like that, I will take it gladly to add to my accessories. But there are people that go really hard with these outfits and make a really commendable effort. So this is my next tip, and that is to check the themed nights that are on board your voyage. Klub Rubiks is something that's on Resilient Lady, but you want to check your specific ship before you sail. The best way to do that is to head over to vvinsider.com, and we have a list of all the themed events that could be on your voyage. And we break this down onto which ships they're on as well. It should make planning really straightforward. But like I say, if you're somebody that prefers not to dress up, that's entirely up to you. Nobody's going to kick you out of the nightclub if you're not dressed to the theme. Just have a good time. So we didn't stay out too late in Klub Rubiks because we knew we had an excursion the next day. We ended up in Ocho Rios in Jamaica, and we went on a great excursion which started off with a 4x4 tour where we saw some of the natural features of Jamaica, including some fantastic scenery and some great plants. This sounds a little strange, but we stopped in a few places where the tour guide picked some things from a tree and said, "What is this?" and passed it around the bus. And we actually found a lot of the herbs and spices that we use in our kitchens at home just grow naturally in Jamaica, and it was really cool to see. After a little bit of a tour, we somewhat confusingly ended up at some primary school. If you're in America, you might call this an elementary school, but this was just a Jamaican school, and I guess the excursion takes you there as a sort of a cultural experience. Truth be told, it was a little bit odd and we weren't really told why we were there. Dare I say, it's not something you would generally expect when you're on adults only holiday, but if nothing else, it was a little bit of an experience. We then stopped off at this scenic outlook where we could see Resilient Lady in the distance. This was really lovely. We had a rum punch and a little bit of a dance. There was some 1980s music going on, which actually was a perfect reflection of the night before with Klub Rubiks. They must have known that we were coming. Then from there, we went to Dunn's waterfall. This is where some of our planning went a little awry, and that's because this experience was all about getting into the waterfall. We'd read the description of this excursion and assumed we were just going to be hiking up a path where you could see a waterfall, not actually getting into it. This was incredibly short-sighted because if we'd just done a quick Google, we'd understand exactly what we were going to do, and we would have been way more prepared and had a much better time. So this is my next insider tip, however obvious it may be, and that is to do even just a little bit of research around the shore things or the excursions that you're planning to do in a port. Don't be silly and naive like we were, and be prepared for what you're actually signing up to. Despite our poor planning in that regard, we did actually have a great time. I was wearing some really old trainers, so I didn't mind just getting into the waterfall. It was quite an excursion. We did really exert ourselves and it was quite active. We did have a fantastic time. I would recommend that excursion if you're heading to Ocho Rios yourself. Because this was a really active excursion, when we got back to the ship, all we wanted to do was chill, and we did exactly that. We spent a lot of time hanging by the pool, relaxing on sunbeds, just chatting and having a nice drink. We didn't have any plans for dinner either. When we dried off and got changed, we headed down to the dockhouse and enjoyed some live music from a guest artist there and ordered some sangria. The sangria in the dockhouse is fantastic. They're also amending the menu slightly, so double check the menu next time you're on board. It comes highly recommended from our friend group. It's a really nice chill thing to do, is share a jug of sangria with your friends in the dock or the dockhouse. So in regards to dining that night, we didn't feel like dressing up and going out to dinner. We grabbed pizza from the pizza place and brought it to the dock and ate it there. And you're absolutely free to do that. When you're at the pizza place, you can ask to take the pizza out and they'll put it in a box and you can take that wherever you want to eat it. So then it was time for our next port day, and this time it was Grand Cayman in the Cayman Islands. The problem is we never actually got there. So this is really important to understand if you've not cruised before. And the fact of the matter is you are on a floating vessel and you are battling against the elements sometimes. And that's exactly what happened to us with January weather in the Caribbean. To set the scene, it was uncharacteristically cold in Florida before we left, and the weather around the Caribbean wasn't as bright and sunny and wonderful as you would really expect it to be. And by the time that we got to Grand Cayman, the wind was just too much. We were supposed to be tendering into Grand Cayman, which means that you get on a little boat from the ship that will take you to a small dock in the port. and vice versa. But the fact of the matter is, if it's bad weather, it becomes increasingly difficult to run these tender operations. From a safety standpoint, if it's very windy and the sea is very choppy, the tender boat will be going up and down, which means getting onto the thing is dangerous, but also the journey to the dock would be incredibly uncomfortable. And the fact that the port day was cancelled brings me to my next tip, which is to expect the unexpected. You never know what's going to happen with the weather. There are certain variables to any cruise, to any voyage, that you simply can't control, but really anything might go not to plan. So for example, if you've got a show booked and you're really looking forward to it, for example, Another Rose is one of the shows that's shown on Resilient Lady, there is a chance it might get cancelled. For example, there might be a really important cast member that isn't able to make the show, in which case they may make the decision to cancel or modify the show. These things can happen. And I think just having a mindset of anything can happen, so expect the unexpected, is a nice way to enjoy your voyage as best you can. Would it be lovely if everything went to plan and you were able to do everything that you planned to do? Of course it would, but sometimes that just doesn't happen. So just adopting a little bit of a more chilled mindset around these things is definitely beneficial. So when a port day is cancelled, what generally happens is on board, they will then move everything into sea day mode, which means they'll put on a lot more entertainment and onboard activities that you're able to enjoy on the ship because you're not able to get off. This generally happens quite seamlessly, and if it does happen, you just need to look at your lineup and it will tell you all the things that are available to do that day. For us, this just so happened to be the day that Scarlet Night landed on. After a very laid back morning and afternoon, we got ready for Scarlet Night. If you're looking forward to Scarlet Night yourself and you'd like some tips on how to make the most of it, we have a video on our page, which I'll link to at the end of this, which explains everything you'll need to know about Scarlet Night. On this particular voyage, we had a really nice laid back Scarlet Night. Most of our friend group have sailed a number of times and have already seen quite a lot of what Scarlet Night has to hold. So actually sometimes just taking it easy and enjoying it with friends, maybe with a few drinks, is a nice way to do it. If you're brand new to Virgin Voyages, I would recommend really diving into Scarlet Night and seeing what it's all about. But if you've done it a few times before, you can take a little bit more of a laid back approach. One thing we made sure we didn't miss though was the Octopus Garden, which is where the Octopus Goddess, normally a role played by the hostess on board. On our particular sailing, we didn't have a hostess in the Happenings cast, so the incredible actress that plays Lola in Lola's Library, Lexi DeLucia, wore the incredible crown of the Octopus Goddess and did an incredible job at the Octopus Garden. When this ended, it was nearly time to head up to the pool deck for the iconic Scarlet Night pool party. Because the weather wasn't great, it was a little chilly on the pool deck, so not many people jumped into the pool this time round, but everyone had a fantastic time regardless. The pool party let out into a hip-hop after party down in the Manor. Because we were taking things a little bit chilled, we decided to skip the Scarlet Night after party, but I did have a peek in there and people were having an absolutely incredible time. But that goes to show you can really shape the experience of your voyage depending on the type of vibe you want to go for. Do you want to take it chilled like we did, or would you be one of those people in the after party? Let me know in the comments. The day after Scarlet Night was another sea day, and again, thank goodness, because sometimes Scarlet Night can again give you a little bit of a headache the next day. We actually shook it up a little bit and decided to book ourselves in to one of the onboard activities called Broadway Boogie. Broadway Boogie is a dance class that teaches you a Broadway routine, and I had actually forced most of our friend group to come along and join me in Broadway Boogie. And I will say we had the most incredible time. I don't think we were very good at it, but we had such fun doing it. And it was a really good way, for me at least, to shake off a little bit of a Scarlet Night hangover. It was also really nice to hear from our group of friends, especially those that hadn't sailed before, just how much they loved this particular event. And that brings me on to another tip, which is to try something outside of your comfort zone. If you have a look at the event lineup, there might be things in there like dance classes that you couldn't imagine yourself doing, but sometimes you just have to take the plunge and go for it. You might discover that it's much more fun than you would anticipate. When you're on one of these vacations, especially on Virgin Voyages, it's a really good time to try something new. The next day was our last full day on board the ship, and it was a stop in Bimini in the Bahamas. On Bimini in the Bahamas is the Bimini Beach Club, which is Virgin Voyages' private beach club. There's tons to say about Bimini and how to have the best time possible. So if you are heading there on your voyage, head over to our guide, either our video guide or the guide on our website, and we'll tell you exactly what you need to know about Bimini. For us this time, it was a little bit of a different Bimini experience because, again, of the weather. The weather itself was very overcast and it wasn't particularly warm, but we did still have a fantastic time. We decided not to let the weather get us down, and we got in the pool anyway and enjoyed Float On, which is an event that's hosted by the Happenings cast, where they get big pool inflatables out and dance around the pool. It's a lot of fun and high energy. It was a little bit chilly getting in the water, but we adjusted to it. It is slightly heated, the pool. There was certainly a few vents that I could feel some warm water coming from, but it was a little bit on the chilly side. But regardless, we still plowed ahead and had a really, really fun time. We also enjoyed the food at Bimini. We had things like the jerk chicken and the fantastic salads that they have, as well as the dessert, including the fruit salad and the rum cake. It's really, really good. Don't miss the food next time you're in Bimini. So once we got back to the ship from Bimini, it's the final night, and that means you need to make sure you're ready to leave the next day. Well, this is my next tip, and that's not to stress too much about packing. And the reason why I say that is that you have two options. If you're very planned and organized, do all of your packing ahead of time, put everything in your case, and then leave your luggage outside the door by 10 p.m. The porters will take your luggage and then you can pick it up when you get off the ship. But if you're not organized enough, or if you feel like you can't pack quickly enough for 10 p.m., which is where I'm at, then you can pack whenever you like. As long as you're off the ship in time, you can take your luggage with you. If you need a little bit of extra time packing, you can just take the luggage yourself. And one of the reasons we do that is because we love the evening activities on the final night. And on Resilient Lady, you'll often find that We Fancy, which is one of the themed nights, ends up on the last night. We Fancy's theme is all glittering gold. So if you want to wear something that's metallic or shiny, now is your chance to shine. But of course, the outfit needs to go somewhere, which is why we leave our packing until the last minute. It's always wise, of course, on the final night not to stay up too late because you do need to get off the ship by 10:30 the next day. On our final day, we'd actually arranged a tour of Miami to see some of the celebrity homes that are out on the islands around the port of Miami. So we actually did this cool boat tour, which was really, really fun. Previously, when we've sailed from Miami, we've always flown on the same day. For some reason, the flights back to where we need to go to in England always tend to be quite late. And we've always told ourselves we'll just store the luggage somewhere and find something to do before we head to the airport, which means that sometimes we're just walking around a mall aimlessly or just staying in a hotel room until it's time to go to the airport. Well, this is my next tip, and that is to plan to do something. And it doesn't matter if it's Miami or any other port, just try and do something before you head to the airport and make sure that you're not wasting a day. And I will say the fact that we did this boat tour in Miami was a much nicer final day of our vacation than if we were just to lie around and do nothing until the airport. So that's a tip I'm going to live by for our future travel plans. I must say it is nice that Terminal V, which is Virgin Voyages port in Miami, is just about 20 minutes away from the airport. So it's a really quick trip. We've been back now a couple of weeks and the weather is absolutely horrendous here in England. Even though we didn't have the best weather when we were in the Caribbean in January, it still beats whatever horrible weather we have here in England. We had a really fantastic vacation despite some of the things that went a little bit awry. But I really hope hearing some of those real experiences from our trip has helped you maybe anticipate some of those things on your vacation. And I hope those tips that we went through really help avoid some of those mistakes as well. If this has been helpful and you'd like some more info, tips and guides about Virgin Voyages, make sure that you're subscribed to this channel. And if you're looking for the best way to book your next Virgin Voyage, then head over to vvinsider.com/book and you can browse all the prices and get some exclusive perks as you plan your next voyage. I'll be back next week with our Virgin Voyages Insider Update, where we tell you all the news and changes that have happened across the Virgin Voyages fleet and brand over the past couple of weeks. But until we meet again next week, happy sailing.